Scruffy Audio Network.
Welcome to Politics. Scott Moore, Matt Webb.
How are you?
Are we on this time?
We are recording. Listen, we've had so many problems the past few shows, but this time, I promise, I'm watching it.
Oh,
We're recording. Yeah, we're recording.
I have looked forward to this show for so long. You have no idea.
Yeah, me too.
You press rewind all the way back to the Kavanaugh hearings.
Yeah.
When Blasey, was it
Blasey Ford,
Blasey Ford,
Christine. Yeah.
When Blasey Ford was able to collect on a GoFundMe,
Yeah.
I said, wait a minute. And I posed a question.
Yep, you did.
How is this legal? Because it looks like it's, to me, anybody anonymously can fund this person.
Where the money comes from is really...
God,
Yeah.
I've got a lot of questions about this.
Yeah. So we got a guest for that.
Got a great guest.
Yeah, we do have a great guest.
Go for it. Anthony J. Gallow is with us.
Anthony, how are you?
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Doing good. How you guys doing? And thank you for that very kind and generous introduction.
No, thank you.
And we came up on Anthony's name because Anthony is actually participating in some legal action involved around this very similar issue. This issue does not involve, obviously, Dr. Ford. It involves the new whistleblower that's involved in the impeachment hearing. And actually, when I was looking at the GoFundMe today, it doesn't look like it even just involves one whistleblower anymore. That the head title on the GoFundMe page now, which, by the way, is at $228,000 as of today, as of right now.
So someone's getting damn rich off this.
And it says, help the intel community whistleblowers. It's plural.
To me, they're dividing the onus of responsibility on who's guilty with this.
Yeah.
I may be wrong. Anthony, weigh in for us.
Yeah, no, I mean, you gentlemen hit it right on the head. It seems that they've, as we said in our complaint to Inspector General Atkinson, seems like they've weaponized the whistleblowing industry here by allowing for anonymous donations. Which begs the question: who are these donations coming from, and are they seeking to influence the employees that turn whistleblowers? That's really what I see as the crux of this, and what's dangerous for us.
Well, I tell you,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're talking to the dumbest guy in the room. By the way, my co-host Matt, you're an attorney. Anthony, you're an attorney. I am not an attorney. I'm not even a paid spokesperson.
So it seems like you're the smart one in the room.
He's the smart one that didn't go to law school.
The question for me,
yes, correct.
When we go into this is so risky on a lot of levels. To me, it actually erodes true whistleblowers. Because to me,
I would tend to agree.
Whistleblowers is actually a very important need when it comes to issues like this. If you see something is tiptoeing a line, someone would blow the whistle on this because it's necessary. But when you have so many times, this something under suspicion where you have gobs and gobs of money being funneled to these whistleblowers, that who knows if it's? I mean, there's no recourse if they're lying, right? I mean, so it puts a lot of elements at risk and in question here that I don't feel comfortable with.
So, Anthony, talk a little bit about, and Scott started to get there a little bit about what whistleblower statutes are generally designed for, and then actually, I think specifically, they actually passed an Intelligence Community Act that was kind of its own thing, and that's what you folks are proceeding under now in the impeachment hearing. That's where this came from. But just generally, what are they designed for?
They're generally designed to protect individuals who come across inappropriate conduct in government. It gives them an avenue to report it to their superiors and kick off an investigation without the fear of reprisal or retribution. That's really what they're meant to protect. Unfortunately, you throw money into the mix, as with this crowdsourced GoFundMe account from over 6,000 sources, and you're left with the question, okay, is this whistleblower reporting it because they really witnessed something that made them uncomfortable and feel that it's in the national interest to report it? Or you have to ask, are they doing it because someone waved the promise of some money in front of them? I think that's the dangerous issue here.
Let me ask you this. So generally, obviously under these statutes, I'm thinking, and I thought I saw this, you can't actually receive compensation for being a whistleblower, right? I mean,
that's correct.
Yeah.
That is correct.
So,
and also, I mean, there's laws directly that prohibit, as one would imagine, gifts to government employees because of their status. And the Office of Government Ethics has been very clear on this. In fact, they opined in February of this year, basically saying that it's pretty clear. A government employee cannot accept a gift because of the employee's official position or, number two, from prohibited sources. So, which takes us to the other issue here, prohibited sources. A lot of these donations are from anonymous sources. Are they prohibited sources? Are they foreign entities? Are they foreign individuals?
That was my question.
Seeking to influence.
What is the difference between?
Just,
what is the difference between what is being accused of Trump influencing foreign government and what they're doing as being anonymous? There's no difference.
Yeah.
It's just the shoe being on the other foot.
Correct.
So I guess the other question that I would have is, what is the reaction from the other side? I've seen a little bit of their arguments. I've read a little bit about that in several of the articles I've looked at, but it seems to me like they're trying to say that this money is not necessarily designed to go directly to the whistleblower, and also they're taking steps to make sure they only come from U.S. citizens. How they do that, I have no idea, and I guess that's part of what your discovery will be.
Yeah. No, exactly. I mean, how, you could start something out with the best intentions, but I think the reading of the statute, whether the funds are provided directly or indirectly, is still poses a problem, because the statute itself, the law itself, doesn't, the term uses the term compensation or things of value, and it literally lists, a definition for gift, and a gift can include a gratuity, a favor. So if you're providing pro bono legal services in the hope of getting a paid later on through crowdsourced funding, is that not a gift? That's a gift. To me, that seems like you're getting an item of monetary value. So how can you say it's not a gift? So I think it's pretty clear, regardless of what they're saying, that funds solicited either directly or indirectly on behalf of a whistleblower, and that whistleblower is in the government employee, poses a problem, runs afoul of the law.
I have to agree with that. I guess that my next question is probably pretty important in the ways of a lawyer. Where was this filed, the complaint filed?
Yeah, correct. Right now it was a letter complaint to Inspector General Michael Atkinson.
Okay. Because to me, the
first step.
Yeah, the first step is probably, it's almost a non-issue, because obviously it'll be elevated if you don't get the answer that you want. But that first step,
correct.
Whoever's on the bench is going to have a big say-so on the timing of this, right?
Correct. Now,
go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, by statute, they actually, meaning the Inspector General for the intelligence community, has 14 days to respond. That 14th day is today, if my calculation is correct. So coming this week, if we do not hear and we have not heard, we need to discuss this with our client to see how best to move this forward.
I mean, I think part of your issue is, and I think I talked to you a little bit about this on the phone when we talked about this show, is that the overarching goal here is to keep this statute what it was intended to be, and not some kind of political ploy that either side could
Correct.
use, because the goal is, let's keep it what it should be. Someone that can actually complain about real, issues when the government, real corruption, real, problems that they see, versus, hey, we've got this huge organization out there. This guy, Ty, actually, I think his first name is John. Is that right? He actually founded,
yes.
John Ty founded a whistleblower organization that he's CEO of, that essentially, tries to protect them through collecting the funds too. But, it's going to play out, obviously, where this sort of thing becomes political all the time. And folks are coming forward because they know not only are they going to get all this money, right, but there's this whole infrastructure behind them to pay for their legal aid and, to actually give them money for security. And who else knows? There's no real accounting of these GoFundMe things that I know of. So
No.
there's no real telling where all this money goes to, and it's just incentivizing people who may not be happy with who gets elected to come forward and say, you know what, I'm going to not only can I be a whistleblower who collects money, but now they're protecting my identity. I can't even be questioned.
Yeah.
Which is another big issue.
That's an issue I have.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, it's becoming more than what it was intended at this point. It's becoming a way for someone who's a quote unquote political operative to be able to come forward, to be a witness, and to be able to collect money for doing so.
It's a shelter. It's a shelter of them.
It makes it dangerous. Anonymity and the allure of money together, I think, is a dangerous combination.
Absolutely.
It's going to embolden people. And, human nature, unfortunately, being what it is, we can't always count on people doing the right thing.
Anthony, you said something in the beginning and it really resonated with me. You said this is being weaponized. And
correct.
There's no other way. I mean, if you were just to hear that from an everyday Joe like me, and not a lawyer, it would be like, well, that makes a lot of sense, because in this particular case, they're using it for political gain. And that's what it
would seem like.
Yeah, and if you're trying to do it and that's the intention, it really opens Pandora's box. To Matt's point is, where does this stop? Because there's no oversight. Anonymous simply means anonymous. These people can exist with no oversight, and at that point, it is absolutely weaponized. Yeah,
it's an open door for foreign entities to get their hands in the pockets of our intelligence community.
So what has been the reception of others within both your community and the political community of your filing this complaint?
We've gotten it's interesting, as much as it started out to be apolitical, things being what they are, we've gotten a lot of support from, let's say Republican the Republican contingency. But the interesting thing here is the original whistleblower complaint, which I think we've all seen that was acted on, seems to be based on, if not double, triple hearsay, correct?
Yes.
Right.
And look what it spurned on.
Yeah.
Our complaint, based on firsthand knowledge, seems to have been buried. So one has to ask, how come? Especially in light, and I said this on Hannity, we were hoping to hear something, especially since the hearings were about to start at that point. And what we were looking for, what we were asking for is, someone to look into the complaint that's at the heart of the impeachment hearings, So the timing seemed ripe at that point for such an inquiry. So the fact that the hearings are going on and we're not going to, perhaps resolve this issue prior to, it leads me to wonder what's going on.
Me as well. A lot of times, lawyers get a bad rap for doing things.
No.
But in this particular case, this is an issue that I think that every American should want to know what the influence. Obviously, the possibilities of this going awry are just astronomical. I mean, it's not good when you have zero oversight and things can happen in total vacuum, and that's what you're seeing with this. And to me, as the regular, everyday American, average Joe guy, I'm concerned about this, and I'd want to know what in the hell's going on, and what they're telling. With the type of attention that it's getting is they're actually just trying to sweep it under the rug. And maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, but to me that's what it seems.
Anthony, do you get any sense from the folks on the Republican side, especially those in the Senate, or have you guys even been contacted by some of them to say we're going to want to know what's going on with the GoFundMe portion of this if it ever gets over to us, as far as the complaint, the impeachment, whatever it may be? Yeah.
Certainly. I mean, obviously, first and foremost, my client being at the head of that list.
Yep.
But it's an issue that people are very interested in getting an answer to. Again, unfortunately, given the political tenure that it's taken.
Right.
Whereas, whistleblowing is just meant to, call out inappropriate or unethical or alleged unethical government behavior. Here it seems to be it's gotten politicized, where one complaint brought upon a nation what we're going through now. And again, seems like it was based on, double or triple hearsay,
Yep.
which, by the way, the complaint, the statute says that the complaint's got to be on firsthand knowledge. So that's another issue which we may have to, address at some point.
Yeah.
But in any event, and ours is, so the one that's in compliance with the statute, the complaint that is, seems to have been backburned for whatever reason. But another one based on tangential, theorems has been pushed forward.
For whatever reason, I'm totally missing this until just now, and this is huge. What I think I'm hearing from you, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is there's another whistleblower out there about this particular incident or topic that actually has firsthand knowledge that you represent, and it's being buried. Is that what I'm hearing, or close to what I'm hearing?
Correct. Our client has reason to believe that this whistleblower violated the law in taking funds, or at least having access to funds, soliciting funds, let's say directly or indirectly, from a crowdsourced funding platform with over 6,000 donors, the majority of which are anonymous, so we don't know where they're coming from.
Yeah.
And again, that in and of itself is a violation of law. And this, the fact that they're anonymous, they could be from prohibited sources. That is, anyone trying to impact his function as a government employee.
This is exactly why you have. This is exactly why you have a co-host that's an attorney, because I totally missed that.
Well, I think I said the wrong thing, though. I want to make sure I'm 100% clear. So your client himself is a whistleblower who has some knowledge of the way that the other whistleblower either turned in information, contacted people to conduct information, and arranged for this whole GoFundMe thing to start. Your client doesn't necessarily have information about Ukraine or any of those kind of calls or that sort of thing, right? Okay, I just want to make sure
that is correct.
That's still applicable.
Absolutely.
That's correct.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think what Anthony's saying is this guy knows how the whole whistleblowing thing came together, which, by the way, they have been very hush-hush about any of that since these issues started coming out, right?
Correct. And that's the basis of our complaint.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at, that information formed the basis of our complaint, and that's why we brought it to the attention of the Inspector General.
So it's not, and I'm trying to be, I'm a little simple too. We're from East Tennessee, but so
somehow I doubt that.
It's not just the fact they have a GoFundMe page. That's just kind of another issue that you're having to pursue based on the intentions of this other whistleblower. It's not just that. There's actually issues surrounding how this guy came forward, whether he had the right information, whether it was an urgent concern, I'm guessing, all that kind of stuff. You guys are pursuing all that with the Inspector General, but then you're also filing a separate lawsuit?
Yeah. Well, right now, our client's information basically circles around the funding, the crowdsourced funding.
Okay.
But I think the logical leap there is, if we don't know how you're being compensated, from who you're being compensated, was the way this was reported legitimate?
I got you.
I think really that's the connection there.
Could you have followed the channels correctly without? Right, I got you.
Correct.
Yep. So do you anticipate at some point other challenges to this, as far as whether it, in fact, was an urgent concern, whether it was reported the correct way, and also whether or not he's allowed to be kept anonymous? I mean, are there going to be those sorts of challenges too?
It's too early to tell, to be honest with you.
Yep.
Because even, if our complaint, if we're successful in our complaint, let's say, then it's really kind of up to the Inspector General as well, whether he's going to publicize it or not. So just because we get to where we need to be doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to out the whistleblower.
Help me out
They should.
Yeah.
They probably should, if that's the case, because that to me tells me he wasn't a legitimate whistleblower and is not entitled to the protections of the statute.
Yes.
But, there's other considerations there, sensitive considerations, which, may lead someone to maintain his anonymity. So we don't know yet, I guess, to answer. That's my long way of answering the question.
No, it's okay.
It's too early.
So help me out here. Yeah, we've got a situation where a person has already been outed in the media,
Arguably,
Correct.
yes.
arguably, and
Arguably, yes.
we're still trying to protect someone on the basis of what? Because at that point, after they've already been outed, they're technically a person of interest or a political adversary, but someone in the media that has interest, which means they're not just a public person. They're a public person now. They're not someone that's obligated to have privacy. In
I want to give
right?
Anthony a shot after I say something, but I think I understand a little bit what angle they're going to try to argue, and that is, number one, from the way I read the whistleblower statute, they're not entitled to confidentiality at all. The issue is they're entitled to be free from retaliation, right? And so
that's a fine line.
They're tying those two things together, right? They're saying there's no way that someone at this high of a level that's whistleblowing on such a catastrophic type event that involves a president of the United States who tweets all the time about his quote-unquote political enemies, there's no way you can protect this person and keep him from having retaliation if you leak his name. And that's their issue.
That's correct. Yeah.
You can't. There's nothing in the statute that says you cannot leak this guy's name.
You know, if it was in the purest form, which was no one knows this person's identity,
right?
But you've got someone it's been tweeted in social media, it's been talked about on TV, his identity, and then you've got people within Congress that don't necessarily have. And maybe they're covered with their obligations and positions within the United States Congress, but these people actually know the identity. I mean, Adam Schiff has been under oath says I don't know the identity of this person, but then in later on in questioning, he says he knows, or he alluded to knowing the person's identity.
Well, he kept them from talking about a certain person, right? Which means he probably knows who it was.
So if it turns out to be that person, legally, did he not lie under oath?
Well, I think what's going to happen, and again, Anthony can agree or disagree, but I think if this gets to the Senate, there's going to be a court battle because they're going to want to know who this guy is. They're going to want to question this guy. They're going to say that Trump has a right to face his accuser, and they want to ask him questions. And whoever's protecting him right now is going to actually – that's part of what these funds are for, that they're collecting. They're going to challenge – that he has to testify, that he has to actually come out and not be anonymous. And they're going to say, essentially what I said is that he's not protected, right? You cannot effectively protect him if you let us know who he is. But another thing I think, and again, this is just me off the cuff kind of talking about laws, which is always a bad thing as a lawyer because it never goes along with reasonableness, the law. It's usually two different things. So if you sit over there and you say, what I think should happen reasonably, what makes sense to me is X, Y, and Z. That's not usually what the law says. Sometimes it is, but a lot of times there's all these other things.
Yeah, but 9 times out of 10, you're right.
Right. So, but I think the what the case is here, what the protection is designed for, is to prohibit retaliation in his workplace. Right. It's to prohibit him being fired or demoted or anything like that. Now, obviously, we don't want them to be harmed physically. But that's really what they would be concerned about. You can't fire the guy. I mean, he's probably already stepped down. Maybe he hasn't. But either way, we all know that he's not going to be fired if he comes forward because that would just be stupid. That's even worse than the Comey firing or whatever you want to get into, right? So they can't do that.
Yeah.
They're losing arguments there because now all that we got is he's going to be attacked physically. He has to have security and that sort of thing. Well, then you got to hire security. That's not enough to keep you from testifying in court. That's like saying, with a mob witness, we cannot say who this person is because they could be attacked by the mob. Well, for the most part, they've got to come forward, right? They've got to testify.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's what the president's going to say. It's what his legal team's going to say. If this goes forward, we have to hear from this person. And I think you're going to see all kinds of legal action around that, too. Whether or not Anthony's involved, I don't know. Probably not. Hopefully not for him.
Probably not. But at that point, at least our clients' interests have been taken care of. And again, his interest is seeing the equal application of government's ethical regulations adhered to across the board. That's it. That's all we're looking for. So if it gets to what we're discussing now, one would hope that our complaint was acted upon and it, shed some light on what's actually going on here.
What does the courts, what type of authority do they have and what type of protection on the other end does this GoFundMe crowdfunding approach have, and what type of authority do the courts have to force this entity like GoFundMe to produce information of where are these funds coming from?
Yeah, they'd have to subpoena them, but I think the bigger problem there is nowadays with, wire transfer of money. I mean, you may subpoena the records, but they may lead you who knows where. It may take quite a bit of resources to ultimately figure out who's pulling the trigger, so to speak.
But
because you could have one LLC fund another. Yep. Given the amounts here, that's probably not the case here, but you never know.
But wouldn't it make sense? It'd be a brilliant idea to fund the thing $20 at a time through thousands of donors, which to me makes sense if you really want to add, some confusion to the whole matter. I mean, there's a lot of people at 10, 15 were coursing through the actual people who are anonymous. They're all $50 or below. That's under the radar, Anthony. I mean, it's a brilliant idea. I mean, if you're looking to funnel money to, and I'll say it, illegally influence something. Yeah. Right. You want to do it at an amount that doesn't raise a red flag. It's the same way with putting money in a bank. Correct. Yeah. And to me, it almost makes sense to, if I was a strategist in this, I would almost pressure them to have no response, because if they have no response, it's almost an admission of guilt in this. If they say, no, we don't have to provide this to you. Well, why wouldn't you want to provide this? You're representing a whistleblower.
Well, lawyers don't want to provide anything they don't have to. But, they are saying that for sure. I think what I found a little bit humorous about this is that there's really no need for them to be anonymous in donating to this, because they're donating to what has become a Democratic-type issue. If they were Republicans, it'd be an issue, because everybody on this list would be getting calls from the press asking why they donated to this GoFundMe account. Yeah. But when it's when it's a Democrat issue right now, and again, I think Anthony's made it clear. You've said, and I'm sure your client is the same way, this is not, when you started this was not about, hey, I'm going to help the Republicans and I'm going to hurt the Democrats.
That's a really good point. I think
it's not that at all.
For our listeners, this is not a political issue, although that we do have political leanings on the show. This is not a political issue to have filed this complaint by Anthony. So we want to make that very upfront. We probably should have done that in the beginning.
I think we did. He said that at the beginning, and I think we'll just say it again.
I think we've discussed that, gentlemen.
Yeah, but that's important as we kind of close the conversation here. It's important that that everyone knows that this had legality as the front horse. This had nothing to do with trying to pull through a political stance.
The unfortunate thing is we've seen lately in these hearings that have kind of overrun Congress really since the time Trump started, right? We've had all these kind of, and Kavanaugh and everything involved. They've been very partisan witnesses that have come forward. And that's always sort of happened, but then you throw in this money involved and the large amounts of money involved. That's going to pay off somebody's debt. Somebody's willing to take a hit to their reputation to pay off years and years of debt if that's what happens. And again, there's no real accounting of what happens with this sort of stuff. The bottom line is you do not want your witnesses bought and paid for, and it's not like when you're in Congress, you're before a neutral arbiter like you are hopefully in court. You're even more so in front of a political audience at that point. We've seen it. It's political theater, and it just makes things worse when you're allowing people to testify and to come forward and to blow the whistle on political opponents, people that they don't agree with, and then allow them to collect money for it. I mean, if it's really an issue and they're really coming forward, it shouldn't be about money. It should be about, hey, I need to protect my job. There's an issue. There's something going on that the public needs to know about. Not, I don't like this guy, and actually if I come forward, people are offering me tons of money to do that, which it really feels like that right now. That's really what it feels like is happening, and it can only get worse if we let this keep going. I mean, it can. People on both sides see this happening, and they're going to know the playbook. We know what politicians do. They follow the playbook of what's happening, and it just stacks on top of each other. Next time the Republicans are going to have this issue, they're going to bring somebody forward. If we get a Democratic president, what keeps us from bringing a Republican whistleblower forward when we have Republicans in Congress? I mean, we've got to think about long term. We can't do this whole nuclear option that McConnell did that was actually Harry Reid, and we've seen what happens, right? We can put in justices with one vote majority. We don't have to have the whole consent of 60% of the Senate anymore. These kind of things are it's a slippery slope, and I think that's what Anthony and his client are addressing. They're not trying to say we don't want the Democrats to do this. They're saying we don't want government to work this way. I think that's really
it's Pandora's box. It literally is Pandora's box. Once this starts, you can't put it back in.
Correct. And I think we need to take a long, hard look at whether, crowdsourced funds should be allowed for political purposes at all, unless, they meet certain regulations, and sources are vetted, certainly not anonymous.
That's what I was going to say, Anthony.
I think slippery slope or Pandora's box, as you said.
I think you're going to make law. I think that's what's going to happen eventually. I think that depending on who's in the House and who's in the Senate, I think folks are going to actually have something passed. Who knows how your case turns out? And by the way, a lot of times laws work that way, right? We get a ruling that we either like or don't like, and then we go just pass laws to overrule that. But I think at some point, if this doesn't go your way, I think you're going to see a law come forward from somebody on the Republican side that says you can't do this. You cannot pay witnesses to testify as a whistleblower.
Correct.
Is it just me? I mean, now I'm not a lawyer, but I do like to read.
You do. You read more than me, probably. Now.
This kind of reads like a almost like a crime novel. I mean, obviously there are so many layers to this damn onion, and I can't wait to hear all about them because looking into my crystal ball, Anthony, you're going to write a book on this.
Oh yeah, he probably will,
and it's going to be fantastic because
we'll see, gentlemen. I'll come back to you guys for some assistance if I do, though.
There you go. Yeah,
I mean, there's so many different layers that would just be. You talk about juicy. I mean, there are so many layers of high level decision making here that could be exposed, of being salacious that it'd make a great book.
Yeah, I tell you, if you write it, we'll translate it into redneck for you. So it'll play well in the South.
there you go, gents. There you go.
So what's the next step here? What's coming up next, and where do we go with your case and just going forward?
Well, next step is my client and I need to sit down and really map out the next steps here. I'm imagining we need to contact the Office of the Inspector General of the Intelligence Community, inquire as to what, if anything, has transpired, and based on the information we garner there, proceed accordingly. But it's certainly not something that my client is willing to just let go and be swept under the rug. I think it's too important of an issue for us all to have this fall by the wayside.
Totally agree.
Yeah, and they're not going to stop collecting money at any time soon because it looks like we watched the ticker go up as we've been talking here. So they have no interest in shutting this down until you make them. I think that's for sure.
Yeah.
Correct. They have no interest in doing so. It seems to be serving them well. So.
Yep.
Anthony Gallow, thank you so much for joining us. This has been
my pleasure, gentlemen.
Yeah, This has been riveting.
Yeah, and listen, we'd like to follow up with you. Please stay in touch with us. I'll email you to find out how things are going, and then at some point we'll have you back on the show just to talk about.
Please do, gentlemen. It would be my pleasure. Thank you for the time. Thank you for listening, and thank you for having an interest in our matter here. And it would be my pleasure to keep you guys posted as this unfolds.
Hey, thanks for listening to another episode of Politics. Be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes and all other podcast apps. Follow us on Twitter at WPolitics or on Facebook at We Are Politics. And come back next time for another great episode.